thousands and thousands of votes that he received during the general election were because of his strong commitment to repeal and replace the WIN sex ed. And now that the province knows that he's in fact repealed absolutely nothing, of course people are going to be upset. And, Patrick Brown did something similar 3 years ago, and look at the fate he met. So I don't know what's in store for Doug Ford, but he's going to be held into account sooner or later.
So I'm standing here in Queen's Park with Tanya Granic Allen, and I first heard of you when you were running for the Ontario PC, and you were very lively and had some really tough points, specifically on the sex ed curriculum. And so moving towards today, I know you were just at a protest in Scarborough, so can you tell us a little about what that protest was about and who was there?
Sure. Well, just yesterday, the Ford government announced that they're going to be basically keeping the entirety of the Kathleen Wynne sex ed for the coming school year. So that's 2 Septembers in a row. Kids are going to be going into the classroom where basically ideological indoctrination is going to take place. So parents and grandparents and concerned Ontarians went to the next opportunity that the Minister of Education was speaking, which was in Scarborough. And, a couple dozen of us gathered last minute with our signs. And then actually the police were called, and we were asked to leave because the Minister of Education, Stephen Lecce, didn't feel comfortable leaving the building if we were physically there. So, we had other things to do, so we ended up, moving along, but that was that.
So with Doug Ford flip-flopping on this issue, you've called him a liar. You said that he's flip-flopping on this issue, and there's actually, I just saw a clip of him today from the past, but I watched it today of him actually saying those exact words, that he keeps his promises and he does not flip-flop.
But I can tell you one thing, we're repealing it, and I'll tell you another thing, we keep our promises. What we say we're going to do, we're going to do. We aren't going to flip-flop.
So how do you think his supporters are feeling right now?
Well, I think we all feel very much betrayed. I think people, they hold out hope that the politicians won't lie to them, that they're going to keep their promises. That's the last thing you want to do is lie to people. We try to teach that to our children. Speaking of the education, we try to teach that to our children. I would expect our politicians to uphold their word. So, Ontarians, I'm sure, are very disappointed and angry. They probably feel very angry that they've been betrayed by yet another politician, this time Doug Ford.
Do you think his decision will make him lose more support than he'll gain?
Oh, I'm sure. I think he knows that, thousands and thousands of votes that he received during the general election were because of his strong commitment to repeal and replace the WIN sex ed. And now that the province knows that he's in fact repealed absolutely nothing, of course people are going to be upset. And, Patrick Brown did something similar 3 years ago, and look at the fate he met. So I don't know what's in store for Doug Ford, but he's going to be held into account sooner or later. Thousands, I'm sure tens of thousands of people are going to be very upset. And if you don't believe me, wait till their children return home from school this coming year, and they're talking about things that their parents never thought in a million years they'd hear come out of those children's mouth at the dinner table.
And so some social conservatives like Charles McVety, he's celebrating the new curriculum, especially the fact that there's an opt-out possibility there. What do you say to those conservatives that will just accept the curriculum as is, but just with that added opt-out?
Well, Christine Elliott offered the opt-out. So it turns out that Doug Ford is actually no better than Christine Elliott. Isn't that a shock? But with respect to Charles McVety, he's misinformed. So yes, there is an opt-out for that prescribed grade where something's been taught. But Doug Ford's own Minister of Education lawyers in January declared in court that teachers can teach anything they want, any topic at any grade at any time. So just because it's prescribed to teach gender identity theory in grades 7 and 8 doesn't mean that they can't teach it to 6-year-olds. So you just can't test on it. So the opt-out is great for those grades where it's prescribed, but what about spontaneous class discussion? What about, if a teacher wants to have a discussion on gender identity to 6-year-olds? Where's the opt-out for that? Well, I'll tell you, there isn't one. So the opt-out is a fraud. It doesn't actually work. And I think the most important thing is that we need to make sure we're protecting our parental rights to protect our children. And unfortunately, this government has turned its back on us.
And so is this the same curriculum that Ben Levin had overseen?
Yes, a convicted child pornographer, Benjamin Levin, who was the former assistant or deputy minister of education under Kathleen Wynne, he helped develop this curriculum. He had a part in that. So he was jailed. So the Doug Ford government is continuing with that, the Ben Levin, Kathleen Wynne sex ed curriculum. It's the Ford Wynne curriculum.
Do you think a lot of people are aware that he had overseen this and that he is a convicted pedophile?
Some people know. I think, it was on front pages, but some people, they don't know the connection. A lot of parents are busy. They're busy, working and rushing their kids to programs. They shouldn't have to worry about our government indoctrinating kids in the classroom. The government should get back to basic sex ed, teach them the facts, not teach them unscientific concepts like gender identity theory. What is this world coming to? Our kids are not guinea pigs. This is not a laboratory where you test theories in the classroom. Let's just get back to basics with sex ed.
And so one of the other issues that was raised during the debates was the carbon tax. So of course we know Doug Ford's position, but the fact that he's flip-flopped on this, what do you think? Do you think he's going to flip-flop on other issues such as the carbon tax?
I don't know. I hope not. But then again, look what happened with the sex ed. I always like to hold out hope that politicians will keep their words. Again, I teach my children not to lie. I would like those in positions of authority to model that example. It would be very sad. I was a big proponent on stopping and scrapping that carbon tax, and I would hate to see any more flip-flopping going on. But then apparently with Doug Ford, what he says one day isn't necessarily what happens the next.
So finally, we are getting close to the federal election. We have two conservative parties. We have Andrew Scheer's Conservatives and Bernie's People's Party. What do you think the key issues this election are going to be, and specifically the issues that will actually separate the two parties and the leaders?
Well, I think we've seen a lot of news headlines on immigration, a lot on climate change. There's been a lot of concern on even abortion and free speech censorship. And I think that's something that's very important. The hallmark of any democracy is its respect for freedom of expression, as we have in Canada, free speech in the U.S. So I think that's something that's very important. We've seen a lot of censorship going down, and I think that's important. As a parental rights advocate, I'd like to see Justin Trudeau stop encroaching on the family, especially with issues like Bill C-16, which censors discussion. We don't live in a totalitarianistic dictatorship, at least not yet. So I'd like to see Canada maintain its democracy, and we'll have to see what the election holds in store for us.
Do you have any predictions of the federal election, the outcome?
Honestly, every day is a new drama, it seems, federally. So I have absolutely no idea. I've just been trying to survive the summer, and now in September I think we'll kind of refocus on what's going on federally, and I'll have to pay more attention.
Perfect. Great. Thank you so much, Tanya.
Thank you.
If you enjoy these in-depth interviews and believe it's important to keep politicians accountable, make sure you like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss another Rebel video.